attack like a plague to make you think about what's truly important and about the value of money. Hi friends, hi, my name is Mia and this is my virtual vanity, a place where we love makeup and we're quite critical of it. If you are curious about this look, I filmed a 3 looks 1 palette with the Kaleidos Futuristic Green. It will soon be uploaded, and if you want to see more looks, head over to my Instagram where I post pretty makeup, pretty flat lays and amazing memes in the stories. Sorry for my absence lately. Romania is quarantined. My problem is that I try to be quite zen and calm, but everyone around me is panicking and everything honestly feels quite surreal. It feels like I am in the initial cutscene of a Fallout just before everything goes to shit. I'm going stir crazy in the house. It's my 4th day cooped up and I do make fun of the fact that I'm like antisocial and introverted, but it's one thing to be like voluntarily isolated and it's one thing to know that you are forced to stay inside the house. And if you're wondering about the state of my mental health, I shaved half of my brows today. We're spocking it. Also, I'm looking at my boyfriend attentively and trying to decide if he truly is post-apocalyptic warlord material or if I will have to break a nail and do everything myself and crush everyone under my boot when the inevitable fall of humanity comes when we run out of toilet paper. Anyway, that's not what we have gathered here to talk about. Today, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind ever since this isolation happened. I was looking at my vanity and I was like, I thought that, you know, if we truly descended to a state of chaos, which is not logically going to happen, but if we somehow do, then all of the fancy, pretty, sparkly shit is not going to serve me to anything. I started to think and see all of the expensive shit that I got, and there comes this train of thought of why do we spend so much money on non-essentials, and how did the beauty industry convince us that this is normal behavior? What is expensive? What looks expensive, and who decides that? One good thing that came out of the Shane and Jefferson Starship series is that we finally got solid proof of how much markup there is in the beauty industry, and that we are paying double, triple the price for what essentially is cardboard and sparkle dust. And yet still we do it. We know it is crazily marked up. We know that it is not its real value and never will be, no matter how bougie and luxe the product actually is. Yet we still keep buying this expensive stuff. Why? Let's face it, at its core, all makeup is mica, pigments, and binders. Even the fanciest makeup and skincare is made of the most inexpensive ingredients, unless it's got like literal blood diamonds. Exceptions, of course, happen, but they are few and far in between that actually explain the price point that they're set as. No matter how fancy the product inside is, or no matter how fancy the product inside is, companies pay literal a couple of dollars to make their product, while we pay much higher. So who decides this price? Companies put the price on their products after production and into market based on a couple of criteria. The first one would be demand, be it artificial or created. So the more in demand the product would be, the more the company would charge for it. Mainly because they know that this is a wanted, desired product, and thus the incentive to put it on sale is lesser. That's why you will rarely see on sale best sellers. The second is hype and brand prestige, and this is entirely manufactured. So for example, something from WetnWild, which is classified as drugstore, will never be able to excuse a Dior price, because WetnWild is not Dior. That's why a lot of people are criticizing NYX for the hike in products. Because, okay, maybe their packaging is getting better, their concepts maybe are getting better, their formulas arguably are trying to improve from their starting point, and as thus are starting to charge more money. However, the perception that they are a drugstore brand is not changed. They are a drugstore brand, and therefore when you think of NYX, you think drugstore, you expect a certain price point. NYX has never marketed themselves and as anything more than that, and has never tried to change that reputation. Let's take another extreme. Let's take Dior. Dior, which has always been a luxury brand. Dior will never price anything at a NYX price point. And if you see anything Dior with a lower price point, alarms get into your head. You're like, this is either fake, expired, a dud, anything. It is not possible to get that price point from a luxe brand, and that is because they set themselves as a luxe brand. What I'm trying to get at is that pricing also comes from consumer perception. You modify the consumer's perception of your brand, you modify your price points and the ability to juggle with them. That's why a lot of brands such as Tarte try to create smaller sub-brands so they can actually hit different parts of the market. So they can hit the drugstore part, the teenage makeup part, the fancy adult part, because sometimes the price points for those categories of people just do not overlap. And if you try to do the same under the same brand umbrella, you risk diluting your brand message and diluting your brand perception. And well, if you come up with a lot of products that are cheaper, aimed at teens, and they're still Tarte, when you come up with a higher priced product that is still Tarte and then it's higher, people will be like, well, what are you guys doing? Those are not your usual price points. Of course, there's a lot of artificial prestige that doesn't come from a long history of being in the luxe industry, and a good example of that is the Natasha Denona. Natasha Denona came out of nowhere, demanded those price points. She doesn't have a set history as a luxe brand. She doesn't have a luxe background. All we knew is that she was a makeup artist and she was charging more than someone pays rent for an eyeshadow palette, and it caught on. People knew to expect expensive luxe products from Natasha Denona, even if the packaging was shit, because it was professional, high-end makeup. She set that bar very high from the very beginning. That's what people expected of her, so she could continue coming out with these products. And when she wanted to expand, she did not create the same products at lower price points. No, she edited the existing products, still keeping them forbiddingly expensive for some people, but she was like, here is a smaller version for you poors. Most importantly, brands price their products for as much as you're willing to pay for them. You might have noticed that ever since the last decade or so, makeup prices have gone up, up, up. And that is because we have allowed ourselves to pay more for everything. More for makeup, more for a palette, more for a lipstick, more for a name, for a brand, for an experience. You could not have charged people $129 on a palette 10 years ago. It was unheard of. But just as a frog in a pot of hot boiling water, and it doesn't realize it's boiled because it's getting gradually hotter and hotter and hotter, so did we come accustomed to paying these prices, because it was not a sudden increase day to night. It was a slow climb, a slow hike into paying exorbitant prices for dust. The only reason why Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath, Chanel, Hourglass are able to ask these prices is because there is a market willing to pay for it. If people suddenly stopped paying for it, they would have to lower their prices while still keeping their luxe perception. I'm not sure I made myself very clear here, but basically, they just kept moving the finishing post and we kept running after it, not realizing that we could have stopped the race much earlier. These definitions of what is high-end, mid-end, low-end drugstore, they're all artificial. They are all created on metrics that move and shift with public perception. These prices are not set in stone. If public perception suddenly changed, the brand would have to change with them. And well, lately, perception has gone into makeup being a necessity and not a luxury, people having crazy collections, myself included, people buying more than necessary, myself included. And brands capitalized on that. They realized that we are very willing to part with our money. Why are we willing to spend so much, and why has overspending become the norm? You know, a lot of people blame influencers for this. There is a component in that because you could never want what you didn't know you had. So if you weren't exposed to as much people talking about makeup, maybe we wouldn't want as much makeup because we would hear less of it. It's kind of like, and you packed lunch, but then all of your coworkers start ordering pizza, and then you crave pizza too, even though your lunch is perfectly fine for satisfying you at the moment. But gosh darn, a prosciutto e funghi pizza be absolutely delicious right now. So I've got a couple of theories as to why we have just exaggerated a bit with our makeup habits. I think the first one is community. And we back again go to the influencers. We want to be part of something. We want to feel that we belong. It ties a bit into the tribalism discussion that I had when I did my video about stans, which I will link up here down below. That one is really interesting. You guys should watch it. Ties into the fact that we humans are social animals and we want to feel that we belong. We want to have the same nice things that everyone has. And you can see that very clearly in children and teens, that when they see colleagues of theirs wearing brand clothing, they go ask their mom living paycheck to paycheck to buy them Adidas shoes or Nike or whatever the cool kids wear today. It's very similar to that. We want to be like everybody else. We want to be an indie group. We don't want to be outsiders. Being outsiders hurts the lizard brain part of us that knows that community means safety. So we buy to be like everybody else. When our favorite influencer buys stuff, we kind of want to do the same. When our friends buy stuff, we kind of want to do the same. We'll listen to recommendations from people that we trust, and we form this sort of parasocial bond from the fact that we both like the same things and we both have the same hobby. Another thing would be prestige and status symbol, and that ties more into high-end and luxury makeup. Luxury makeup is prestigious. Luxury makeup is prohibitive because of its price, because of its aesthetic. Buy luxury makeup because you can. And it's that point of you can that feels like an achievement. I am so well established in my life that I am the kind of person that can spend $129 on Natasha Denona eyeshadow. It scratches at our pretty shiny part of the lizard brain that wants to feel accomplished. And so when these brands promise us the luxury and prestige, we want to get that product, because then that product is a confirmation that we are part of the group of people that can get it, that can afford it, that has that luxury experience. And I do feel that buying those type of products is an attempt for us to reinforce an aesthetic that we want to achieve, that bougie, luxury, a mature woman that has like a dental plan and whatever else you associate success with type of thing. Brand reputation is also a factor in pricing things. If you have a certain reputation, like the example with Nyx earlier, people are not willing to pay higher than your reputation, and if you lowball it, then that is suspicious as well, because well, if you were pricing it until now at a certain point and you said that's what it valued, then either you're tricking us or this product is bad. So brands really have to be careful and walk this edge of being priced fairly in the eyes of their consumers, neither too low or too high according to their reputation. It's also the joy of owning things, of overabundance. There is this minimalism current that I also aspire to, and I've been really trying to streamline, but let's face it, our monkey brain sees, likes, wants to take. It is quite natural to want to surround yourself by beautiful things, useful things, and want to surround yourself with accomplishments of your desires. And it is very satisfying, again, for the reptile or the monkey brain or whatever you want to call it, when you are able to buy the thing you want. It releases endorphins, and when you look at the things you have, you're like, well, I got that. I could get it, and it is mine. And that is very satisfying, I do think. As I said, there's this counter current. I feel that it's like a pendulum where everybody was very maximalist for a while, got tired of it, got anxious, and now we're all trying to be minimalists. And I don't think those extremes are always for everyone. There will be people that will be their happiest at their most streamlined, they're happiest at doors and doors and doors full of makeup. But for most people, I think there's a happy middle. But as I said, wanting beautiful things, the joy of ownership sometimes does lead us to pay for more than would be strictly necessary. You know, the next question is, who decides what is luxury? Who decides what is enough to charge? What is enough to warrant charging such prices? Look at luxury makeup. It all has a certain type of aesthetic, doesn't it? A very Western aesthetic. Consider all luxury brands that you know from the Western world. I may be missing some brands that I'm not aware because of, you know, ignorance, because I live in a certain part of the world and was exposed to certain things. But most of the luxury brands that I know were founded by white women or white men and aspire to a certain aesthetic. That is not a good or a bad thing necessarily. It just means that now, because people only associate that kind of aesthetic with luxury, there's a bit of a bar of entrance. So if someone wants to start a makeup brand that is very luxury but has ethnic references or a different type of aesthetic, let's say a goth punk aesthetic with prices like hourglasses, they will have a much harder time to break the mold, to break and convince people that they are on par with those other things. It's a matter of like attracts like, and people liking a certain type of uniformity in what they know to be the truth. It's a very complicated topic that honestly goes beyond makeup and is tied into aesthetics, into the Western world, and how much those aesthetics influence the rest of the world, and colonialism and other stuff that I am not entirely wanting to get into right now. But the elite decides what is the aesthetic that warrants luxury. And we have to be quite careful and knowledgeable about this fact that our view of luxury and opulence is dictated by a small subset of people. There are certain classist and racist elements in the luxury world where minorities, their aesthetics, their skin tones, their cultures are not associated with luxury. If you look at the concealer and foundation and bronzer ranges for a lot of luxury brands, they stop at a medium. That is a very deliberate decision to exclude customers of color from their purchasing. They want to keep their customers to be of a certain look, of a certain type, and they decide that the people that are darker than a medium do not fit that type. That is racist. This is of course slowly changing with globalization. Countries that have a non-white majority are bringing their own aesthetic into their luxury and into their aesthetic of opulence. And they're slowly bringing it out of their borders and into Western, predominantly white countries. We can't deny that predominantly white Western countries abide by a certain aesthetic in their cosmetics, even though now they have a lot of minorities within them. We need to change with the times, and our aesthetics and cultural perceptions of what is beautiful and rich and luxe needs to change with the times. We need to start associating ethnic features, skin tones of all types with luxury, and not have things that are ethnic be considered tacky or too much or not classy. And thus we will also change our perception of what we need to pay a lot of money for, including makeup brands. To get back to the price point thing, We are slowly getting used to spending more and more money on non-necessities, which shows that we as a society are getting more and more affluent. But we also have to sit back and consider, why do we really desire those things? And do they bring us lasting joy and happiness? And most importantly, why are we paying that money? Is it perceived value? Is it truthful value? Is it promises of a lifestyle? Is it truly worth it? And I think that answer depends from product to product and our emotional and logical response to it. Thank you so much for watching. That was it. These were my thoughts. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Maybe share your most expensive purchase. We are a support group and a safe space here. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening, morning, second breakfast, third lunch, whatever it is you're from. Bye!